Welcome, everyone, to the Master of Data Science Vancouver Campus Alumni panel discussion. Let's get the discussion started. First, I'd like to ask our panelists to introduce themselves. Maybe you can start with your name, a little bit of your background, which cohort you were part of, and what you're doing right now, work or career-wise. And let's start with Reiko.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Reiko Okamoto. I was part of the 2019-2020 MDS cohort. I'm currently working at the Briere Research Institute in Ottawa, Ontario. And there I am a methodologist, basically helping researchers in the field of epidemiology gain an understanding of the problems that they face, and then taking that and developing, maintaining, and extending software that can help them get their job done. And prior to the UBC MDS program, I completed a Bachelor of Science in Microbiology and Immunology, also at UBC.
Thank you, Reiko. Welcome. Daniel, do you want to go next?
Sure. Thanks, Milad. My name is Daniel Ortiz. I'm originally from Mexico. My background included, I did my undergrad in actuarial science, I worked back in Mexico for almost 5 years in Volkswagen Financial Services. So it was mostly finance and sales that I had experience with before, but I had that statistics foundations from actuarial science. And then I did MDS in cohort 5. So that was during the pandemic, 2020 to 2021. And upon graduation, I worked as a data scientist for 1.5 years into the IoT space. So I was working at a company where we would develop smart city type of solutions. So we would help municipalities to monitor water levels, noise levels, and so on. And I recently transitioned to a product owner position at Volkswagen and Audi Credit for US and Canada. And in there, I mostly, my work relates to how to implement agile methodologies on a scale, scale those ones into like 18 to 20 development teams and align projects. That's me in a nutshell.
Thank you, Daniel. Welcome. Ritisha.
Hi, I'm Ritisha Sharma. I graduated in 2023, so the most recent cohort just a few months ago. My background is in computer science. I did my bachelor's in computer science, and I jumped into MDS right after. I'm currently working at UBC as a data analyst, and we look at science students and science researchers and try to find some insights that would help the Faculty of Science.
Thanks, Ritisha. I've separated the questions that I've wanted to ask in questions that have to do with what you did prior to the program. And then the second set of questions is your experiences during the program. And then the third set of questions is what you've been doing after the program. So the first question I have is, what made you choose the MDS program? And why did you choose this research-based master's program, maybe over another program? Feel free to jump in, whoever has something to say.
Well, I joined MDS, first of all, because of the reputation of UBC. Being such a prestigious institution, but also the program is accelerated and its focus is on getting you ready for working in industry. So over the 10 months, you get all the skills that you would need and you can jump into the workforce right away. So I think that was definitely an attractive feature for me.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Sure. For me, it was, I remember I had done another master's overseas, and I was doing an internship, and it was a BI dashboarding solution. And while working there, I kind of realized in 2015 how big BI and data science was, how it was trending. So I decided there that I really wanted to pursue a data science or BI related or big data related kind of program. And then I found this one, which I agree, like the fact that it's 10-month and it's accelerated, and also that it's in UBC and in Canada. It was just the perfect fit for me.
I can jump in next. So for me, after completing my bachelor's studies, I was initially enrolled in a different master's program in public health. And although that's the field that I'm still working in today, I was during that program where I realized that I was more interested in the quantitative analysis side of things. However, the program that I was initially enrolled in at that time didn't offer any programming courses. And that sort of inspired me to look around and to eventually switch to the MDS program. And again, just to echo what some of the other people have said, I think it was the duration of the program that was also a selling point for me as well.
Great, thank you. So you talked a little bit about your backgrounds already. Daniel and Reiko, you had some work experience, but Ritisha, you came straight from your undergrad degree. So can you talk a little bit more about how your backgrounds related to the program and how they how you decided because of your background to join the program, and if it helped or how it helped your backgrounds, whether it's work experience or your educational backgrounds?
So I had a degree in computer science, so I had a lot of practice with programming, and I definitely think that helps in the program because a lot of the assignments are programming based. But I think everyone gets so much practice that after a few courses, after a few blocks, everyone has those skills in programming. Yes, and I didn't have much work experience, so definitely the projects that we do in MDS, and especially the capstone project, that were essential for me, and I really emphasized that when I was looking for a job after graduation.
So you had a kind of a computer science background already, but Reiko, you didn't have a technical background. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely did not have, or my bachelor's studies didn't go extensively into computer science. That being said, I was able to take some computer science and statistics courses, mostly at the introductory level, to fulfill some of the computational science requirements of my undergrad degree. So I found that part academically to be helpful. And in terms of maybe work experience that kind of related to the MDS, I worked as a research assistant for an epidemiology lab, and that did introduce me to some concepts like regression that would later get covered in MDS. But I feel like once I was there, everyone was sort of on a level playing field, but everyone was kind of bringing in their own different academic and professional experiences into the room.
Yeah, and I feel regardless of your background, or in my case, for example, I had some professional experience, but I didn't have the computer science background. And some of the challenges I had, it was, I had been 5 years without attending school. So like the pace, the homework, the rhythm, it was a little tough to pick it up. But so everything, like I just feel everything comes with a trade-off. So it comes with advantages and disadvantages, but I feel the program is so well designed that if you don't have the background, the programming skills, as it was my case, I didn't have any coding or programming experience, but you will catch up in first 2 months at most. And yeah, it's very well designed, so everything will be leveled after 2 months.
Great, thank you. So just to be clear, there is the prerequisite courses that everyone has to take before they apply to the program. So there is the basic skills, basic programming, statistics, math, and algebra skills, calculus and algebra skills that everyone needs to have. but you don't necessarily have to have a technical background to apply to the program. Okay, now that you've finished the program and you've gone through the program, is there anything you did to prepare prior to joining the program? Or if you didn't, now that you know what the program is like, what would you recommend people do before joining the program in preparation?
Okay. So like I said, I did have the programming experience, but I only took a basic stats course that was required as a prereq to get into MDS. But I definitely think I should have read up more and solidified my foundation in stats, because it's business, stats, and programming. All three go along in the program. So you kind of have to be strong in all three of them. So definitely would have improved my stat skills.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Reiko. I was just gonna say, in my experience was kind of a little bit opposite. Like I had some foundations when it comes to statistics, so I was able to pick that up more quickly. But then I had to take some introductory courses for R and Python, and those really help. And I would really recommend that if you're in a similar case as I was, that I didn't have much programming experience, then those levels, just to get familiar with the programming languages, that would really pay off during the program, which is very fast paced, and it won't give you that much time during the program to pick up stuff that you could have done earlier.
Yeah, sort of to tag on to that. So in my case, because the programming course that I'd taken to fulfill the computational requirements for admission wasn't taught using the programming languages that are actually used in MDS, I spent some time taking, free introductory Python courses just so I could get familiarized with the syntax of at least one of the two languages that are most frequently used in the course. I'm sure it would have been better had I done Python and R, but I think it was just enough getting a solid understanding of the syntax of at least one of them. Yeah, lessons of workload for you to do during the actual program.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that if you have more of a statistical background, maybe you want to brush up on some of your programming courses like R and Python. But if you have more of a computational programming background coming into the program, then maybe you should take some online statistics courses to kind of hit the ground running when you start the program. Is that correct?
You couldn't have said it better.
Thank you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the program and the challenges. What do you think were the most challenging aspects of the program?
I definitely think the pacing is fast. So every week you're learning a lot of new things, and you have to understand them to a level that you can apply it to the weekly assignments and then the upcoming quiz. And so you have to be very dedicated to the MDS program. So you have to commit these 10 months and know that most of your time and effort is going to go into MDS. So you have to be very invested.
Thank you. I would totally agree. It's a pacing. It's the that's probably the most challenging. And then having to pick up some of where your weaknesses are at, and which again it relates to the pacing that might not allow you to invest that much time in other stuff, but definitely the resources, the tools, and the materials are all there. So it's just a matter of dedication and patience and resilience, and getting rest when you can.
Yeah, again, I think the pacing and the juggling of different things, like trying to take away as much as you can from the lectures, showing up to the labs, completing the weekly assignments, and also just being okay with the fact that you might not be able to dive as deeply as you want into every single topic that gets covered.
Okay, so you all talked about the intensity and the pace of the program, that it's quite intensive and fast-paced. And you kind of touched a little bit on quizzes and lectures and labs. Can you maybe talk a little bit more about the actual program, like the day-to-day, week-to-week, so that people know?
Sure. I can tackle some of that, and feel free to stop me or to correct me. So the program is divided into 6 blocks and a capstone project. Every block, it's around 5 weeks, and every block includes 4 different courses. So every week you typically attend 2 courses. So you will have a 90-minute lecture twice a week for each course. So that's 2 courses daily from Monday to Thursday. And that combines with a lab session that usually it's in the afternoon, a 2-hour session. And then you work on weekly labs that you typically need to submit on Saturday evenings. And that's like week to week, Monday to Thursday courses and labs. And then you got to do your own work and tackle the labs and submit on Saturdays. And usually there's 2 weeks out of those 5 weeks per block that you, on top of that, will have a quiz for every one of the 4 courses. Feel free to if I missed anything.
Anything to add, Reiko? Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how things have changed over the years, but I can definitely say that for cohort 4, that was how we did things. And yeah, I think quiz week, as we would call it, was definitely the most busy time of each block, just because you are juggling lectures, assignments, studying for the quizzes, writing the quizzes, and attending labs, all within like a single day. So.
Ritisha, anything to add, or?
Yeah, I was in the most recent cohort, and I guess things have stayed the same. But yeah, I agree with everything Reiko and Daniel said.
Yeah, so you have lectures in the morning, labs in the afternoon, Monday to Thursday. Fridays is a day off, but that's when you work on your assignments and the labs, submit them on Saturdays. And I believe this coming year will be very similar. So it is very intense, very busy for 10 months. But that's how we can keep it in 10 months, right? Like if we had spread it out a little bit more, then it would be a longer program. So can you talk a little bit about how many hours per week outside of class and labs you recommend to dedicate to the course, studying and doing assignments?
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Reiko.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say that if we have lab times, which if you use very productively can be great, and if you collaborate with others, it can be really helpful. But even then, I had to dedicate at least 2 hours, and then Fridays were mostly occupied with doing labs and the assignments. And that's on a non-quiz week. So on a quiz week, it could be more because you're studying for quizzes as well.
So 2 hours after class every day, are you saying that, or per week?
Oh, it was 2 hours on average.
Per
Yeah,
day?
but it could be, yeah, per day.
Per day, okay.
But it could be much less if you really use your lab times appropriately, which I might not have done every time, but yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
great.
to add to that, I think I was also in a similar boat in that I try to get most of my assignments done at school during or around lab time. So this may have involved like, going into the lab an hour or so early, like during lunch hours, and then getting like a bit of a head start with some of my friends, classmates, and also staying like a little later past the official, end of the lab time, staying a little later on campus until dinner, working with other people, just because it's a lot easier to make progress with those assignments when you have more brains, and you can also have fun with other people as well. So yeah, I tried to do that mostly through Monday through Thursday, so that on Fridays and on Saturday, or Fridays and Saturday mornings, were mostly dedicated towards just kind of rereading some of the stuff that I had written down, or setting aside and using that time to focus on questions that I knew were going to take a lot more time than some of the other parts of the assignment. So again, that kind of depends on who you are. I know some people kind of like to more uniformly distribute their work throughout Monday morning to Saturday evening, but for me, I kind of liked cramming everything from Monday to Thursday, and then just taking it a little bit easier on Friday and Saturday morning.
How about you, Daniel?
Fridays and Saturdays were tough. I would dedicate a lot of, like, most of those days trying to finish my labs. Probably, yeah, I could have anticipated better on Monday and Tuesday specifically. But then you're, if I had to say like a number, I'd say probably between a week, like 15 to 20 or 25 hours a week outside of the classroom. I would say at least that was in my case.
Okay, thank you. So you talked about your school commitments. How did you balance your school commitments with your other commitments? Like the question, to expand a little bit on the question, some people wrote that they have a family or kids, or maybe are considering part-time or full-time work. What is your recommendation or experience with that?
In my case, so it was kind of a irregular year because of the pandemic. So I didn't have my regular activities as I would have back in at home in Mexico. So it's tough to gauge on that. However, I did have classmates with family, with kids, with part-time jobs, full-time jobs, and they all succeeded. Now, I personally, due to not having the technical or computer science background, it would have been very tough for me to be working at the time. So I had to quit my full-time job and dedicate my full time on the program, and that would be my recommendation. However, again, like I saw classmates that they were able to balance it out, all of it. So it's possible, but my recommendation would be to try to focus as much as you can in the program.
I agree with a lot of what Daniel said. I had a work-learn position during the program, and I was able to, I had to dedicate a lot of time on Fridays and Saturdays to it. But I think the only reason why it was manageable for me was because my supervisor was very flexible. So if you have work that requires you to be available 10 hours every week, it might not be the best choice to do with the MDS program. Yeah.
Thanks, Ritisha. Reiko?
I can only speak from observation, and that I know in my cohort there were also people who had families and part-time, I'm not sure about full-time jobs on the side as well, but it's a little difficult to comment in that. I'm not quite sure what kind of competencies that they may have had that made it easier or more difficult to balance everything on their plate.
Yeah, I think to be honest, I haven't heard of anybody having a full-time job and doing this. Maybe during the pandemic year because it was all online, but it's definitely probably, in my experience, very difficult, or I would even say not doable if you have a full-time job and do this as well, do the MDS program as well. I think a lot of people also find it very challenging if they have a part-time job, just like Ritisha was saying, unless it's a very, very flexible part-time job. But it's, we talked about the intensity and the pacing of the program. So make sure you keep that in mind if you wanted to keep your jobs or other commitments as well during the 10 months. So we talked a lot about the challenges, but what is or some of the things that you enjoy the most? Some of the things that you, thinking back, think, oh, those were great things that I learned or great things that I did.
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I think one thing that kind of stuck out to me was the camaraderie that kind of existed within the cohort. There's not too many experiences where you can, for a short amount of time, really, dive into studying topics like this. And when you build a group of classmates or friends that you get along with and you enjoy working together, that those intense moments of concentration and sometimes frustration can turn really fun, and and they end up having great friends, being great friends, or just folks to have in your network down the road. So yeah, I really wanted to point out the camaraderie, because I felt like I was able to meet and get to know people more easily than in my undergrad, where at certain moments you kind of felt there's a lot more anonymity, and you felt more like a number that was difficult to kind of get those conversations going in, these 200, 300 people lecture rooms.
I definitely agree with Reiko. The people that you meet are definitely the best part. It's not much of like we're competing against each other. It's more we're all in this together. We're competing against the assignments. And aside from the help you get on like your assignments, it's also just good emotional support. Just so like when you're finding jobs and maybe you feel demotivated, it's good to have a group around you who's also going through the same thing. So yeah, the connections you make in this program are amazing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the people you meet during the program, it's totally worth it, and not only classmates but also the instructors and the staff and everything around it. Like I was constantly being amazed on meeting people that are not only brilliant, but they're also very dedicated, and they take it seriously, and they study more. So trying to keep up to that expectation only makes you better. So that's something that I really appreciate from the program. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and the instructors are also very well connected in their own communities as well. So through them, you can also learn about different communities that exist out there in terms of maybe, for example, like Our Ladies, which is like an international group of women who use the art programming language. Like that was a community that I learned through one of my instructors, being like an active participant in that. So you kind of get exposed to different niches and network that exist kind of within this field.
Great, thank you. One question that kind of came in that I maybe wanted to touch on is about group assignments and individual assignments. So in your cohorts, approximately what percentage of your assignments would be individual versus group?
Good question. I'm trying to remember and try to balance it out, but I think it was kind of well balanced. I remember the first blocks. It was kind of out of the 4 courses, 1 week you would have one of the labs. It would be a team collaboration effort, and then the other 3 would be individual. But then as we were progressing through the program, it became more like a team and project. Some of those. So yeah, probably. I don't want to say percentage, but I think it was well balanced.
Yeah, for cohort 4, I do recall the earlier blocks being more individual work heavy than the group work heavy. And yeah, I think maybe the second half of the year was where you almost always had like at least one group project for one of your courses, but I don't actually recall having to juggle multiple group projects across different courses at any point in the programs. Not sure about the other cohorts or how much has changed, but.
Yeah, so in the beginning it was mostly quiz-based, and then as we go on there are more group-based project classes.
As you get to know each other a little bit better, maybe, right? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So the first 8 months of the program is the lectures and the labs, and then the last 2 months of the program is the capstone project. Can you talk a little bit about your capstone project? Maybe talk a little bit about what the project was, how you decided to choose this project, and how it helped you or didn't in your career, in your finding a job after. Let's start with, Daniel, go ahead.
Yeah, I was right. I'm very passionate about my capstone, so I can go at last if you want. Reiko and Ritisha.
Sure, I can start first. Sorry, so you wanted a summary of the capstone project and the tools or the knowledge that we took away from it? Were those the 2 components?
And how did you choose it? Yeah.
Yeah, and how did I choose it? Okay, so my capstone I did with a Vancouver-based mobile app company, and given the data that they had collected using their mobile app, they wanted us, the MDS students, to build a machine learning model to predict the number of monthly playground users at different playgrounds or select playgrounds across North America. And for me, one of the reasons why I wanted to choose that project was I wanted to see what it was like to build like an extensive machine learning workflow from top to bottom. And yeah, through that process, I was really able to use different features of tools like GitHub, which is a platform in which code often gets shared within data science. And I think those best practices that I learned during the program that I applied during the capstone are still things that I take with me to the different workplaces that I have been a part of, and both the program and the academic components of the program and the capstone project really helped me solidify how to best use those tools effectively.
Thank you, Reiko. We lost Ritisha, so maybe Daniel, you can go next.
Sure. So I got to say that I'm really into sports. So some of the options for capstone projects were with the Vancouver Whitecaps, which is the MLS soccer team, so the professional soccer team in Vancouver, who they play in US and Canada professional soccer league. So when I saw that opportunity, I really wanted to work on that project. I got it assigned, and then we were tasked on building some ML model to predict the MLS performance of international players. So we had access to data from 34 different international leagues, for the last 3 to 4 years. And using that, we use some statistical models and some clustering algorithms as well to try to predict how they would perform in a specific MLS team, not only in the Vancouver Whitecaps, and that would help them in their recruitment processes. So that was definitely something that I enjoyed a lot. It's usually a team of 4 that you will work with. So not only I made great friends, the partner, the Vancouver Whitecaps, were also really, really good. To me, every time that I've been in an interview, I bring this capstone project up because it's something that I'm very passionate about, and I think that can show with the employers that I had. And then I can say that one of my classmates that was in the same team, he now works for EA Sports, which is a video gaming, and he's in the FIFA team. So and he's told me how the capstone project helped him a lot to get that FIFA team in EA Sports job. So yeah, so it was amazing.
Thanks, Daniel. Ritisha, you're back. So I'm sure you heard the question, right? Yes.
Okay. Yes. Sorry about that. My internet went out for a bit. So my capstone project was relating to cybersecurity, which was something I was very interested in during my bachelor's as well. So we were trying to detect malware using machine learning, and it was a great experience just getting to handle real data, because you work with real life data sets in courses, but they have to be somewhat clean so you can actually learn the concept. But with the capstone project, you're given the data set and you're given a question and you have to decide how to approach it, which is very much how it would be if you're working as a data scientist. And it definitely, since I didn't have work experience, was a great thing to emphasize on my resume. And I talked about it extensively in my interview. So it was very essential in my experience.
Thank you, Ritisha. Great. So that's a great pivot to the next set of questions, which is what you're doing after the program. So can you talk a little bit about how you found your first job after graduation, how long it took, and people are also interested in whether it increased your income level taking the program.
So the position I'm currently in was thanks to actually the work learn position that I was doing. After every week, the things that I would learn in MDS, I would try to go and apply it to that position. And I was offered a full-time before I graduated from MDS. But apart from that, when I was applying for jobs, if you start early, then I also had an offer before graduation. And so you just have to start a bit earlier, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So for those of you that maybe don't know, work-learn positions are positions that are the on-campus part-time positions for students, for current UBC students. So there's a lot of kind of part-time, 10 hours a week positions that are advertised on the career services website, the central UBC career services website, that students can apply to and go through interview process and those kind of things. So Ritisha, you were saying that you had one of those part-time work-learn positions on campus with a different department or faculty of science, I guess, and they offered you a position. Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah. I could go next, kind of share my experience. So I started like casually looking, attending job fairs around February of 2020. However, things kind of slowed down because that coincided with the first few months of the pandemic. And I really didn't actively start applying routinely for jobs until I was well immersed in the capstone project. So that would have been around May or June of 2020. And I was spending a lot of time going through job boards and attending meetups that were often virtual back then. And at one virtual event, I connected with a biostatistician who happened to know someone at the BC Ministry of Health that was looking for a data analyst with some level of proficiency in R. So I was able to get a connection through that individual that I met at the event. And after a coding challenge and an interview, I was able to begin my job as a data analyst with the Office of the Provincial Health Officer with the BC Ministry of Health in August of 2020. So that was around 2.5 months, no, a month and a half out of the program. And I just looked up my stats because I kept a spreadsheet of the number of jobs that I had applied for after I finished the program. So I applied for around like 50 positions kind of across Canada with varying levels of seniority. I ended up getting interviews for 3 of them and received an offer for 2. So those were my stats in terms of my first job search after the MDS program.
Spoken as a true data scientist. Daniel.
I wish I had my file in hand. In my case, I definitely started my job hunting process a little later than probably I should have. I decided to kind of I had just moved to Canada, to Vancouver, like right at the end of the capstone project. So I kind of took it easy to find first a place to live and stuff like that. And then I went into the job search. And in my case, it was about 4 months. And again, it was a very challenging year. 2021, the pandemic was still going on, and still I was able to get a data scientist job, and it was throughout a recommendation of another MDS student who had been in that job or in that company already, and it was a growing digital division. So he kind of recommended me, and then I was part of the recruitment process, and I ended up getting that job offer exactly on the day of our graduation ceremony. Actually, that was one of my highlights. But I guess what I'm trying to say is make sure to build a strong network during the program, because that always pays off, not only in having friends or people to reach out when you have questions about your current job, but also like they can get you the recommendation you need to land a job. So networking in MDS with such brilliant people, it's strongly recommended.
Awesome.
Yeah, and to echo Daniel's point. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, to echo Daniel's point, I think as much as you can sometimes feel like you're in a rush to start applying for things, and as important as it is to start updating your CV or resume, or maybe having like a few cover letter templates ready to go, I think while you're still in the program, it's really important to take advantage of that particular environment that you have access to for such a limited period of time to actually make sure that you're really understanding the concepts that are covered in class, and that you are building those strong interpersonal relationships, because when you don't have those, it's a lot more difficult to prove that you have the right skills in those interviews that you may get down the road.
Yeah, because that's a good point, because all 3 of you, I notice, got your jobs through your networking. So you didn't just wait for a job posting and send your resume. You were out there networking and talking to different people, and that's how you found your jobs. Daniel, there's a specific question for you, asking why you transitioned to a product owner role from a kind of a more data science related role.
That is a great question that I've also been that I've asked myself as I was making that decision. And as much as how can I say it? I consider myself very social, and I like hanging out with people and being exposed to just more people, and so my rationale behind it was, if I can stay close to data science, to ML models, to development teams, and speak their language while also dealing with the business, that was kind of a perfect balance for me, which I feel I had the business side before MDS. MDS gave me the technical side of it, and now I can balance both in a way that I feel very comfortable. So that's why I decided to for that exposure.
Yeah, I think there's actually several of our alumni who are working as product owners. So it's not an uncommon job to get after the MDS program. Okay, we have about 9 minutes left. There's a couple of really good questions that I still have on my list. So what do you think are the job prospects going forward for data science related fields in Vancouver or in Canada? Like, now that you're working in the field, do you think it's still a hot job?
As someone who has spent some time in both the public sector and in academia, I think even though it may be difficult to find these positions on public job boards, and that sometimes these positions are created and may not be publicized as well, I think there's many teams that are starting to leverage open source tools like R and Python as opposed to licensed software, and they may be looking for folks who are able to write code to help team members leverage these tools. And yeah, I guess there's that demand. So like I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I didn't know that roles like the methodologist or like research software engineering existed until I was nearing the end of the program. So yeah, kind of going through the program and meeting other people who are sort of in the within this data science field exposed me to new positions that I didn't really think about in the beginning, and made me aware of roles and job titles other than data analysts and data scientists that I could look for. It's a little tricky because sometimes, like, you may be doing, very similar things, but just depending on the nature of the organization, they're calling them, research officers, research council officers, data analysts, data scientists. So yeah, Daniel, I can see that you're smiling.
Yeah, I totally, it resonated. I wasn't aware of like machine learning engineers or data engineers, and even though there is a job title as well, but for example, in my data scientist, I feel I was doing a lot of data engineering related stuff rather than the data science part of it or the actual models. But I still think it's totally a hot one, a data science. I think it's out there. It's although it's a bit difficult to get that first job, that entry-level job. I agree that's a big challenge, but I do feel that it's just a matter of time. So it takes patience, it takes resilience. But once you get there, all the other jobs will become easy or more accessible, let's say. And the demand, I think, at least in Vancouver and Canada, from what I'm seeing, it's very high demand. Even when the tech industry right now it's not having the best time, even then it's still a very demanding job and skills required. Yeah.
Ritisha, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think since data science can be applied to any industry, even though I guess people would say the economy is pretty bad, and that's true, but I think data scientists still have an edge because they can apply to really many companies. So I think, yeah, it's still a hot job.
Yeah, it's actually interesting because when people come into the program, we do a survey of our incoming students, and we ask them, what companies are you interested in? What companies are you interested in working for? And obviously they say Tesla, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon. But then when they graduate, actually most graduates work for, industries like the automotive industry, like retail, like education, government, right? So there's a lot of jobs out there that people don't know when they come into the program, how many jobs there are out there that are not in the tech industry, in the IT, the big 4 or 5 tech companies, right? Okay, 4 more minutes. I got a few more questions here. Let's see how far we can get. So do you think, you talked a lot about your roles and the different jobs that the different skills and duties that you have. How do you think the MDS program actually prepared you for your current roles? Or did it?
I definitely still use my MDS notes sometimes. When I'm making a visualization, I might refer to best practices. And even if you learn new skills if you need to learn new skills in your role, I think MDS gives you a good foundation, and also gives you the skill to learn very quickly new things, because data science is always evolving. So definitely prepared me.
Thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And the program is, again, so well designed, and the material is really good. And one of the benefits of being an alumni is that you still get access to the material from not only your year, but the years after. And since it's a field where it's, as Ritisha was saying, it's evolving so quickly, then just to have access to the most recent material, it's a blessing. And I totally was referring to my lecture notes and everything on my data scientist role. Still, I do it now, but less often. But it not only referring that, but yeah, just the skills that you learn to just try to solve problems. It's a skill that's transferable to pretty much any job.
Yeah, to echo the comment earlier, I think the program provides a great foundation, and that you get exposed to different resources that are out there. So you always know where to go and what the most trustworthy sources are when you want to pick up a new skill. And personally, like for me, it hasn't been necessarily the algorithms that I learned, but more like the way that I learned how to organize collaborative projects, how to structure data, how to document and make my code readable. So sort of like these maybe not so exciting, not so shiny components that have gotten recognized and appreciated by my managers and colleagues in the past. So what you learn isn't just the algorithms, but it's also how you work so that you can use those tools.
Great, thank you so much. In the final minute, do you have any final tips for anybody who would like to take this program?
Absolutely. I can't stress that enough or recommend the program enough, but I'd say that I've been blessed to have the opportunity to study a master's program in 3 different countries and universities. And this for sure has been the most academically challenging program that I've been a part of. And it was totally worth it. So my recommendation is, if you're thinking about it, go for it. Like, it's something that you will not regret, and that's my case. I can vouch for that. And yeah, go for it. If I was able to do it, you will all are.
Thanks, Daniel.
definitely agree with Daniel. And once you're in the program, just remember to, it's not all about grades. You need to collaborate and meet other people. I think that's a very core concept of MDS.
Yeah, I'm super glad that I did it, and it gave me some extra tools to complement some of the things that I learned in the field of epidemiology beforehand. Long story short, leading me to the job that I have today and the experiences that I've had so far.
Amazing. Thank you, Reiko, Ritisha, and Daniel for joining us this afternoon. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I'm sure we could have chatted for another couple of hours. Thanks, everyone, for attending this webinar, and we'll see you soon.